finally, we need to recognize that there are some hard cases. Libya, I've actually met Muammar Gaddafi for 3 hours. He lives in his own head to a certain extent. And now that we have said that he has to go, we have to find a way to make it happen. I don't have an answer for you on precisely how it happens. One thing that you understand when you have been in government is that the calculations that are being made on any given day are myriad calculations that you can't possibly see from the outside. And so I, like President Bush, reserved my comments about administration policy for private times because I know what it's like to be inside. It's a lot harder to be inside than it is to be outside. But we've made a call about Muammar Gaddafi. NATO is not a foreign being. NATO is us. Now that NATO is involved, we have to make certain that Gaddafi's regime does not survive, because if it does, he will go back to the bad habits that he had before he decided, after we took down Saddam Hussein, that maybe weapons of mass destruction didn't look that good after all. And we can all be very grateful that he doesn't have his weapons of mass destruction. But having said that he has to go, he has to go. And then there's the tough case of Yemen. Yemen is a collection of tribes with insurgencies in the north and in the south, and with al-Qaeda all through it. The collapse of the regime in Yemen may bring us to another failed state that is a real problem for the counterterrorism fight. And so the situation in Yemen has to be dealt with carefully. But again, a regime that has lost the confidence of its people will not last. It's time to find a way for a stable transition in Yemen. So it's going to be an interesting time if you sit where we do, and a rocky time if you sit in the White House or the State Department. But this is no time for the United States of America to lose its nerve, no time for the United States of America to lose confidence in our principles, no time for the United States of America to lose its voice in advocating for freedom. The overwhelming record of history is that in the long run, our values and our interests are indeed one. In the short run, we will experience some times when our interests seem to be counter to our values. But those times rarely actually last. The United States, more than any country in the world, has a reason for belief in democracy and for patience. I referenced the time of the 1950s and 1960s in my home state of Alabama, where a little girl couldn't go to a movie theater with her family or to a restaurant, but where her parents had her pretty much convinced that she might not be able to have a hamburger at the Woolworth's lunch counter, but she could be President of the United States if she wanted to be. And oh, by the way, she became Secretary of State. The United States is a place that in my lifetime finally began to deliver on the grand principles that the Founding Fathers had stated. Let's be honest, when the Founding Fathers said we the people, they didn't mean me. Now it means me. That should tell us something about the journey of democracy. It is not actually a destination. It is a journey. And each day you get up, and day by day you put another brick in place, and it gets stronger. And that should be the message to the people of the Middle East. Not, we don't trust you with freedom. Not, you might elect people that we don't like. No, those are bad messages. The message should be, freedom is always worth it. It's hard. You've begun your journey. We will be with you. And we have to be optimistic that it will come out right. And we have reason also for optimism from history. In 1989 to 1991, I was the White House Soviet specialist at the end of the Cold War, and frankly, it doesn't get much better than that. I got a chance to see the liberation of Eastern Europe and the collapse of communism, the unification of Germany fully on Western terms, and the beginnings of the peaceful collapse of the Soviet Empire. But I had to recognize that the good decisions that led to that outcome had actually really been made in 1946 and 1947 and 1948. In 1946, when the Italian communists won 48% of the vote and the French communists 46% of the vote, when in 1947 Europeans were still starving, necessitating the Marshall Plan, there was civil war in Greece and civil conflict in Turkey. In 1948, the Berlin crisis split Germany. Czechoslovakia fell to a communist coup. In 1949, the Soviet Union exploded a nuclear weapon 5 years ahead of schedule. The Chinese communists won. And in 1950, the Korean War broke out. Now, suppose in any of those years, or for that matter, in 1960 or 1970 or 1980, I had told you the following. Guess what's going to happen? On November the 9th, 1989, the Berlin Wall is going to come down. And Germany is going to be unified completely on Western terms. And then in December 25th, 1991, the hammer and sickle is going to come down from the Kremlin for the last time. 75 years of communism, never mind. And oh, by the way, in 2006, the President of the United States is going to attend a NATO summit in Latvia. If I'd said that in 60 or 70 or 80, you might have had me committed. What one day seems impossible seems inevitable in retrospect. That is what we need to say to the people of the Middle East. That is what we need to say to the people of America. And then we need to make it so. Thank you very much.